Hello, everyone, and welcome to a story that forced me to confront the toxic silence of my own family. If you've ever had to choose between blood and truth, hit that subscribe button. Rain stitched the river into broken glass the day we buried my sister, Aurora. I was still holding the damp, folded program when I saw my father, Julian Sterling, a man who'd spent his life polishing our last name like a trophy, step off the gravel path and wade toward the dark, churning water. In his hands, a small, polished wooden box wrapped in white cloth, like a damning secret. My mother, Genevieve, stood back, eyes hollow, her lips pressed into a line that was all silence and complicity. Dad didn't look at me. He simply set the box down and let the current take it. I froze. Then the wind shifted, and from inside the box came a sound, thin, fragile, impossible. I ran. My shoes slid in the mud. My breath snapped in my throat. "Please be empty," I whispered, dragging the box from the reeds with shaking hands. The lid was nailed. I wedged my car key beneath the seam and pried. When it opened, the world fell open with it. My name is Cora Sterling. In our city of Amesbury, people used to say the Sterlings didn't cry. We commissioned statements. We wrote checks. My father built a logistics empire that made him the kind of man who could speak softly and still command a room. He taught me 3 rules. Protect the family. Protect the name. Protect the silence that protects both. Aurora never fit. She was sunshine, where our house was granite. When she brought Liam Vance, a musician with calloused hands and a laugh that turned our stern dining room human, Dad's smile became precision sharp. "Ambition?" he asked over a cold dinner. "Joy," Aurora answered. "I'm choosing joy." The day Aurora told me she was pregnant, she was shaking. "We'll manage, Cora. The baby kicked yesterday. I swear it said my name." I knew then this joy would break our house down to its foundation. It did. In clinical whispers, Dad explained the options that made Aurora's face go gray. She ran. Then came the hospital call. Complications. Aurora gone. The funeral script arrived in my inbox 2 hours later, and after the final word was spoken, Dad walked to the river with a box. I wrenched the lid free. Inside lay a newborn wrapped in white cotton, his lips bluish. A soft whimper snagged the air. His ankle held a hospital bracelet. Baby boy Vance. "Julian!" My mother's whisper cut the air. I turned, the baby a desperate warmth against my chest. My father stood there, his face now just gravel and a rusted hinge. "Give him to me, Cora," he said. "You threw him in the river," I stated, my voice not mine, but something cold and hard. "You don't understand. The papers were complicated. Your sister's choices created a liability." "A human," I snapped, clutching the baby closer. "We can fix this, Emily," Mom said, pleading. "Fix?" I whispered. "He's not a stain." Sirens lived in my blood. I ran for the car. Dad stood where the mud met his expensive shoes, eyes cold as ledger lines. I drove to the nearest trauma center. I gave them a sanded-down version, found him near the river, alone. They took him. They wrote his name as Baby Thorn because I gave it fast. When the doctor returned, he said, "Early distress, but responsive. He's a fighter." "Of course he is," I whispered. "He's Aurora's." I named him Orion, after the constellation Aurora loved. I signed the foster papers, my hands, which had signed million-dollar contracts, shaking uncontrollably. On day 3, Dad's car slid to the curb like a verdict. I met him outside my apartment, Orion a warm, fragile weight in my arms. "Enough," he said, soft and dangerous. Give me the child. I'll handle the necessary arrangements. Arrangements like drowning? My voice was pure steel. Like discretion. Like not turning your sister's mistake into a headline that eats our lives. Aurora wasn't a mistake. I looked down at Orion, who yawned, unbothered by dynasties. No, I said. I'm making us into one. The lock slid home between us. My thesis became simple. You can love your family and still defend yourself from them. I called Liam. The phone rang and rang. When he finally answered, I poured the river into the phone. He listened, silent. They killed my son, he finally whispered. No, I said, quickly. I pulled him out. He's alive. He's safe. He's perfect. He arrived 38 minutes later, collapsing when he saw Orion in the isolate. Orion, he breathed. He looked at me like I had dragged a star out of the river. We made a plan. Petition for emergency guardianship. Document everything. Every call, every threat, every non-apology. We built a file thick enough to stop a bullet and thin enough to hide under my mattress. Dad sent flowers, a suffocating arrangement, with a card that read, "Congratulations on your charity." Mom sent a text at 2:13 in the morning. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. At dawn, Orion opened his eyes fully for the first time. They were the exact blue of Aurora's favorite watercolor. He blinked like someone waking into a world on purpose. I said, "Good morning, my tiny rebellion." The Sterling courthouse sits like a marble threat. On the day of the emergency hearing, Dad waited at the doors with a lawyer's whose suit cost more than my apartment. The judge, Honorable Alana Green, was all business. She read the file and finally looked up. Dad's lawyer purred, "The Sterling family stands ready to assume full responsibility. My client deeply regrets the unfortunate mistaken decisions made in the heat of grief." Mistaken decisions, the judge repeated coolly. At a river. She looked at me. "Miss Thorne, do you have evidence of the child's endangerment?" "My statement, Your Honor," I said, my voice steady. "And a video." Dad's head snapped toward me. "Video? I have a dash cam that triggers when motion is detected near my parking space. It caught my parents walking past the river path with the box, leaving, and my father's hands empty on the return." Dad laughed, too loud, a broken sound. "A box could contain anything." "Then why?" I asked, looking directly at the judge. "Was there a hospital bracelet on the baby's ankle with Aurora's name and Liam's?" The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Sterling, stand." He stood. He wore his best boardroom apology. "We believed we were delivering the child to a safe haven. We panicked. We failed. But we can correct that now within the family." "Safe haven," the judge's voice cooled, "at a river." She looked at Liam. "Mr. Vance, can you provide a stable environment?" "I can," Liam said, his voice raw with emotion. "I've taken the night shift at the plant. My aunt, a retired nurse, has offered care. I'll take parenting classes. I'll take anything. He's my son." The judge turned to me. "And you, Miss Thorne." "I will support them," I said. "Financially, logistically, every way. We can live as a family if the court allows." Then, shockingly, Mom spoke. "Your Honor," she whispered, tears finally falling. "We were wrong. We were so afraid of losing face that we lost our daughter. I won't lose our grandson." The judge nodded. The gavel's shadow fell. "Emergency legal and physical custody is granted jointly to Mr. Vance and Miss Cora Thorne, pending full review. Supervised visitation to the grandparents contingent on court-appointed counseling." Liam covered his face and made a sound like relief learning to walk. I sat very straight, absorbing the victory. 3 nights later, I went back to the river alone. Dad was already there. "You were always the troublesome one," he said, not unkindly. "I should have known it would be you." "It had to be someone," I said. He breathed out, ruined. "I was raised by a man who thought reputation was God. You think I don't see that box when I close my eyes?" "You can step back," I said. "You can always step back." "Can I?" he asked, looking smaller. "When your childhood taught you that stepping back is death?" "You humiliated me in that courtroom," he finally said. "I saved your grandson. And maybe what's left of you." He laughed, a broken sound. "You won, Cora." "No," I said. "Orion did." The next morning, the counseling office called him 4 times. On the 4th, he answered. He set up a scholarship in Aurora's name for art students. He then offered to set up a fund for Orion. We made him sign a public, irrevocable agreement that the funds would be managed independently. On the first clear day of spring, we brought Orion to the river. Liam carried him, I carried flowers. Mom came quiet and fragile. Dad arrived last. We stood where the reeds bowed. I placed the flowers on the water. "Hi, Rory," I whispered, using her nickname. "He's everything." Dad stepped closer. "I will spend the rest of my life deserving the chance to know you, Orion." We stood together. Not perfect, not clean, not healed, but healing. I looked at the water and remembered the box. I looked at my nephew/son and saw a boy who would never be put in one. As we left, the river kept moving, but I swear it sounded like it was singing. If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe. Tell me in the comments, did Cora make the right choice partnering with Liam, or should she have kept Orion to herself?